Are you ready?
Yank me.
Remaking a system-selling, franchise-spawning game like Halo Combat Evolved is pretty risky. How many things will they mess around with to help justify selling the same game again, and also run the risk of ruining what made the original incredibly special in the first place? Well, I'm pleased to say the 2026 version of Halo Combat Evolved doesn't really change anything that would upset lovers of the original, which is obviously good, and while playing the campaign, I don't feel this remake is about bringing in a new generation of gamers who weren't around when Bungie introduced a brand new IP to the world that shocked everyone into suddenly loving Xbox. For me, this is a remake for lovers of Halo who simply want to play it again but kinda see it how they remember it, because we all remember games looking much better than they actually did back in the day. And I am one of those hardcore Halo fans who spent an insane amount of time with this game, especially since it introduced me to LAN parties to play multiplayer. There's been moments while playing this, I slipped back into the exact same flow state that I experienced 25 years ago on the original Xbox, with that massive controller that Microsoft thankfully quickly got rid of, and even though everything looks new, it does feel exactly the same to play. It was like going back in time, because even though this is clearly a massive visual improvement to the original, especially if you put them side by side, but there's also moments you entirely forget you're playing a remake, because as I said, it looks and plays almost exactly how I remember it. We obviously have some changes to discuss, starting with the new cutscenes, which look like a movie versus the original game that used in-engine gameplay to tell the story. So now, when Halo 2026 switches from a cutscene to gameplay, it is a big difference, making this new game suddenly kind of look old. In comparison, the recent Star Fox remake cleverly blended gameplay and cutscenes together, so it just flowed from beginning to end, leading to, at least I feel, one of the best and most faithful remakes we've ever had. So to be clear, I do like the new cutscenes, but it also adds some slightly jarring moments too. There's also been some minor changes to the cutscene dialogue, removing one of my most memorable moments, but this is only a minor gripe, because I'm glad to say it was the only time in the entire story that I felt this remake suddenly went off script. There's also some extra cool stuff gameplay wise, like seeing physical damage on the vehicles and the environment. Beating up my Warthog was pretty fascinating, because you get to see the panels actually bend and then fly off, exposing the shell underneath before fully exploding, which was absolutely awesome. The other biggest change, at least in terms of social media outrage, was the inclusion of giving Master Chief the ability to run for the remake, and I have to say, it doesn't really make the difference or impact most people were expecting. Master Chief's movement speed by default is technically running, so clicking in the left joystick only really adds a minor boost to this game's speed. In fact, it's so minor, they could have easily not added it, or they could have leaned into this even more heavily and made him sprint a lot quicker, similar to Halo 4. But I am glad for this remake they played it safe. The devs have cleverly sped things up only by a fraction, which doesn't change the feeling of the original gameplay, and for people like me who tend to control a fidget when nothing is happening on screen, it's actually been a welcome inclusion, and I feel it actually adds to the pace of the game. There's also lots of little extra special effects, like seeing Master Chief's visor having some sort of lens wear, so you can see small scratches while looking at bright lights, letting you know this isn't his first time in combat, even though this is the first game. While saying this, now's a good time to mention there's some bonus prequel content, which I personally knew nothing about and takes place 1 year before the original Halo story, and this gives you an extra 3 chapters to play, which lasts about 2 to 3 hours. And I'm not looking to add any spoilers to this video, but it does reuse some assets from the original game, but it also introduces a new environment and some new enemies, making it pretty unique, and overall makes it a very nice complement to the new Halo Combat Evolved 2026 package. The weapons are one of the most iconic things about Halo, because they were back in the day very satisfying, and I'm pleased to say the majority of the weapons feel exactly the same. We do, however, now have the inclusion of the SMG from Halo 2. Now, no weapons in this game can be dual wielded, but the SMG does feel balanced. The pistol, or Magnum as some people call it, feels absolutely perfect and just as satisfying as before, but it's the shotgun that feels different to me, and not in a bad way, it just feels more powerful and therefore more satisfying. Graphically, there's moments this game absolutely looks incredible, and there's some nice little touches in the environments making them feel more alive. There's also some extra effects when using the weapons, showing the effort that has been put in to make this game feel more up to date, and the voice acting, which is pretty much identical, even though some of it, or maybe all of it, has apparently been re-recorded using the original cast, bringing only only 2 changes, these changes being Captain Keyes and Sergeant Johnson, because apparently they use new voice actors, but to me, they sound extremely close to how I remember them, and if I hadn't been told this had happened, I would never have known. The music, which is obviously iconic at this point, is exactly the same, and so are the sound effects. So ultimately, what we have is a remake that feels exactly the same as the original, and was brilliant to play all over again. All the new stuff they've implemented has been done perfectly to make it as if Halo was made in 2026, which is exactly what I wanted from this remake. While saying that, this may also be a negative for some people when you take into consideration more recent remakes like Resident Evil 4, which made quite a few changes to the original game, but it still kept the core of what made it a fantastic game, versus Halo that doesn't really change anything apart from these minor improvements I've spoken about, with the biggest change obviously being the updated visuals. Overall, I've absolutely loved stepping back into this game because it does feel like I've gone back in time, reliving a bygone era. Plus there's multiplayer and online 4-player co-op, which unfortunately wasn't available for my review build because the servers weren't online, but I will 100% be playing this game all over again with friends, and obviously being an Unreal game, it won't be long till we get a VR mode. Now I've tried every way I could think of using UEVR to test this in VR, but unfortunately it simply would not work, so it might take someone more technically minded to figure this out. Overall, if you love the original Halo, I highly recommend it, and I definitely give it a buy recommendation. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.